What's happening there, people? John and I are not in the same room right now. We are zooming into each other because we're going to do a podcast. We're going to do a podcast today, and everything that we're going to talk about is all answering questions from our patrons, our super sexy rejects. They're driving the narrative of this entire podcast. One real ways of saying thank you to them, and just to visually mix it up, and so that way it looks like we're looking at each other.
Yes,
John
how's it going?
And I. And
Eye
then
contact.
We're looking at you guys too. So we're more connected because sometimes John and I don't know what to do with each other's eyes when we're sitting right next to each other. It's a common problem.
I want to look at you, but I gotta look at you guys.
But where do we look? Now we're not even looking at the camera. We're just making circles with our eyes. So, yeah. John, how are you?
I am good. I'm excited. This is fun. I like trying out a new format, and it's been a while since we've done a Q&A, so I'm very excited to see what everyone's thinking about and wants to know about. How are you, sir? From blocks away from here.
Yeah, I'm doing well. I haven't read these questions thoroughly. I skimmed through them. And a lot of them are what you'd expect whenever you would do some of these. It's, can you react to this? Are you going to watch this?
Yeah.
We're trying to do a podcast, damn it.
Well, now I know what to think about now the Demon Slayer's done.
I feel like a lot of them are. So we got like 40 questions, but we want to keep this at an hour, so we'll see how much we can get done in 1 hour.
Yeah.
If we have to do a part 2, we will do a part 2. Let us know if you want to do a part 2. And this is going up on our second channel. So leave a like. Leave a like if you're here. Let's get to it, guys. All right. I'm just going to go in order and then see what happens. All right. So first question from Lori Esquire, who loves commenting on John's videos on the Patreon page.
Prolific commenter.
Prolific. She's in depth. She says, what do you think of Wayne's World? Have you ever covered that? I know it's kind of old, but I love it. Really, there are two. You should do that. Hey, in a way, you dudes are kind of like Wayne and Garth. You know, we never get the best comparisons.
No. Nah,
you're like Jay and Silent Bob. You're like the clerks.
You're like Bill and Ted. You're all the slackers. Yeah. You're all the slacker stoner duos. Yeah.
No one's ever like, you're Martin Riggs and Roger Murtaugh. I can't think of any cool duos here.
That's right, man. You're Cap and Bucky, man.
You're Derek Zoolander
and Hansel.
And Hansel. No one ever says something like, always like the dumb ones. So I'm guessing John is Garth in this scenario then, eh? No, Wayne's World is on the list of what I want to react. I'm assuming you've seen Wayne's World, John. Have you seen Wayne's World? I haven't seen Wayne's World.
I have only a frame of reference via the sketches, which I don't know that well. I've not seen the movie. That's another movie that Andrew Gordon.
Interesting.
Andrew Gordon was quoting Wayne's World at me, and it's another one of those things where I was like, I want to yes and you, and I know this is a reference I don't get. I know them for excellent, which at the time I thought Bill and Ted had stolen, but then I guess it was not the case. But yeah.
Oh, well, there you go.
So
looks like one of these requests might be honored.
Wayne and Garth can have we can Wayne and Garth a movie reaction.
I hope we hate it. I hope we walk out really not liking this movie.
I wonder. I mean, Spaceballs happened. I've never seen Night at the Roxbury, but I saw a piece of it on TV, and I was and funny and during your wedding, I saw a piece of The Ladies' Man on TV in the hotel room, and both of those were like, yeah, this is an SNL sketch movie. You know, where you're like, you gotta love this sketch to love this. You know,
weirdly, out of all the kinds of movies that we do movie reactions for, I think old comedies are the ones I'm most nervous about.
Yeah,
it sounds like the ones that would just be, oh, what do you gotta do? You just gotta sit there and laugh and then talk about how it's funny at the end. It should be the easiest thing in the world. But a lot of the times, the sensibilities don't jive with me as much, and some of like the best bits. Apparently, Greg does not crack up enough at those best bits or something like that. So I can get nervous, like how you felt a little nervous with Dumb and Dumber.
Very
and
nervous,
like my response to Spaceballs, but like I even rewatched Zoolander on my own time, and I remembered not thinking that was funny, and that was like a prime case of me being like, oh man, thank God I didn't react to this because I did not find this movie funny. And then I rewatched it and I was like, what was I thinking? This movie's hilarious.
Yes.
I love this.
Yeah. I think that's one of those movies that at first glance is like, this is so dumb, but then it worms in. Kind of like how you told me about your experience with Hot Rod, where at first you were like, this is so stupid, but then it somehow seeps into your brain and charms you.
Yeah. Hot Rod, Napoleon Dynamite. 2 movies I walked out of and then went back to the theaters to finish because it became funny upon reflection. All right, Lori, there's that one.
Yep.
Let's move on.
Woo! Jerome Harrison. All right, here we go, Jerome. We're off to a great start. Are there any plans to watch Torchwood at any point? It's definitely worth it, even just to get to Children of Earth Season 3, which is some of the best British TV, in my opinion, of course, and Gwinnell Heald, which, if you're Welsh and I just fucked up your name, please let us know. But seconds this, Torchwood is a perfect shitstorm of a good plot, good acting, shit effects, cheesy writing, shit plot, and the most random ideas, but somehow is such a good show. And that's the best pitch I've ever heard for Torchwood. So thank you, Gwynny.
Look, some of these, because they're request questions, we got to keep these like remarkably short. There are no current plans to watch Torchwood. I'm just letting you guys know that right now.
Yeah.
At the moment, there's other like some things that we're not those people who just only watch something and then hand it off and then we just let it be uploaded. Like we're very especially hands on with either the editing or the thumbnails or figuring out other stuff. And then on top of that too, like we try to cover some movie news throughout the week as well. So yeah, having Torchwood in the books is not currently on the agenda. You never know, something might change one day. But at this moment in time, Torchwood is not part of the agenda.
I have interest. It would be fun someday. Who knows? Whether on my own time or whatever, as a Doctor Who enjoyer, maybe.
Perhaps. But let's move on. Thank you for the question, regardless.
Yeah.
Ben Berkowitz is asking for what is our favorite Christmas dessert?
Ooh.
Fascinating question.
It's a delicious question.
Huh.
Do you have one?
I don't really have a favorite Christmas dessert. I guess I like a good pumpkin pie.
That's a good one. I love a good pumpkin pie. Yeah, and that's
Solid
a good
pumpkin pie.
Yeah, that's
Tasty, delicious pumpkin pie.
Pumpkin pie is heartwarming.
I'm just gonna keep saying pumpkin pie so John doesn't finish his sentence. Pumpkin pie.
Pumpkin pie. Yeah, man. Fall through winter. Pumpkin pie. It's perfect. I will always support a pumpkin pie choice. My favorite Christmas dessert, aside from pumpkin pie, my mom makes an almond ring roll. It's like a sweet roll that's like braided, and it's got a sort of almond pasteness in the filling. Like it's bread-like, but there are sort of these strips of almond paste, and it's iced with chopped almonds on top, and it's just like the perfect blend of like it's sweet and delicious, but it's also like nutty in that way that I think a classic, sort of a Dickensian Christmas conjures up. So yeah, I look forward to that every year. And it's like weirdly there's no reason to only confine it to Christmas, and yet it's the one time of year I get to have one. So yeah.
That's a lovely answer. Oh my God, you stuck to one.
I know.
Braced myself.
We did this
I was like shit. John's gonna rattle off like. But it also shouts out to.
No. There are other questions. There are other questions
17
for that.
different answers right now.
No, because I glanced over these questions a bit just to take a couple notes for questions where I thought that could happen, and this was one where I was like, no, I know what it is. I actually do. Just know it. I know 3 singular things: my favorite movie, my favorite song, and my favorite Christmas dessert.
Well, looks like the next question is for you, John.
Let's do this, Christopher Simeon. The question is, did you feel the twists in the Disney Plus shows were too easily written and predictable compared to the older TV shows like Daredevil and Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D.? I always felt like they made them too easy to figure out. That's a very interesting question, and I feel like part of it comes down to the fact that I think the Disney Plus Marvel shows have had to figure out in a more specific way how to bridge the gap between feeling like you're getting something that matches the scope and scale of these movies, but also that's formatted for weekly viewing, which I don't think stuff like Daredevil or Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. had to do, because they knew from the get that they're in a certain format under certain budgetary restrictions and whatnot. That being said, in ways, I mean, I feel like Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D., Daredevil seems like it's had the carte blanche because it's not confined by content restrictions and confined by, having to match a certain lightness that the rest of the world has to adhere to. But I feel like, especially with Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D., like that's kind of off the beaten path, so you can kind of do all kinds of things, which appeals directly to me because it feels like in Elseworlds, and I feel like in ways you can go Coulson. You could, especially now, you can look at it as Coulson died in the movies, and that's that. And I get why people feel that way. And then, having Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. immediately feel like an Elseworlds or like a What If, to be label appropriate. Yeah, I can see what you mean, and I haven't. If I'm being brutally honest, there's a lot in some of the shows that I do wish was like that much more satisfying from like a intricacy perspective, or something that's like truly mind blowing, that like really lives up to. They're good at building the hype, and sometimes I'm like, I don't know if they quite nailed the hype that they built, but there are shows that certainly I would rank, at the top of that, like everyone goes to WandaVision and Loki, and I would certainly put those up there. Like, I would rank, if I was to really go through and rank all the shows concentratedly, Daredevil and Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. would definitely rank high and definitely rank above some of the MCU shows. But, the MCU shows also aren't confined by being on a network, and that, elevates them in a different way. So, I don't know. I hope that was an answer.
It was. I think, too, I can't attest to Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. I didn't waste my time with that nonsense.
That's right, man.
Piece of shit show.
Right. Yeah. Pile it on.
I've never seen an episode of Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D.
Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. is really sci-fi,
sure.
and that's fun. They're able to go off and get wild.
I've seen every season of the Netflix shows, the original Netflix shows, before Disney Plus is going to PG-13 them up. I think with those, you don't really run into the gambit of twists. You get the twists and turns or whatever, but you're binging those versus, you have something like Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D., which goes on for so many episodes and so many seasons. You got to be really creative with keeping the surprises up and shit.
Sure.
Versus there's like it's a tall order when it comes to these Disney Plus shows, because you are working to be more adhering to the canon. And then even people, like even the director of Echo, the showrunner, was like, yeah, if I had more time, I would have done things differently. I'm like, the show's not even out yet. Dude, so, I think he's already like dogging on it.
Someone check in on that director.
And I think that often has something to do with it too, is because you have to work so hard to appeal to a bigger mass appeal, and you don't have as much time, and you're also trying to I got to make sure these people tune in next week.
Yeah.
And then having some of those optics around the way you're crafting something in your writer's room, and then with budget, and then having to adhere to it creates a whole mess of things. But I don't know. I didn't feel like any. Because I think the thing that Disney Plus shows became too subject to was wanting crazier twists and crazier reveals, and it was always like, yeah, blockbuster.
Yeah.
It was more to the lines of what it came. But yeah, I think Loki's the one that delivered on it. I feel like there was a big debate of would Kang actually show up, and then I was like, oh shit, we actually got Jonathan Majors here. This is nuts.
And this actually feels like earth-shakingly significant.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
All right. We have Gwinnell Heald. Heald? Held. What a lovely, what a sounding British name. Here we go. Will you be watching Sandman at any point? I think you guys would like it. We missed the mark to react to Sandman. We could react to Sandman. I don't think people would really tune in as much. You see, you hear more of that narrative coming from me here, guys, that you guys have to understand is and anyone you see here, it's I have to pay people for their time, and if we get help, I got to pay people for that too, So if the person at the Real Rejects who has to run it like a business at times is going to be me versus I feel like the Sandman's the kind of thing where I'm with the amount of time it'll take to put together just one episode here and then having other people on. If I get other people, it's a lot of it comes down to breaking even on things, and that's just a very honest answer for someone who has to at times make decisions I got to think a little bit like a business owner, because trust me, from the business owner side of things, sometimes I make terrible decisions. We should have canned Brooklyn Nine-Nine ages ago.
Yeah. But that has truly become a labor of love.
Yeah, that is just seriously just a labor of love. It is something where I'm could definitely be saving some money here.
Yeah.
If but
it's
you know,
comforting.
it's something that we have just been doing because we're like, it's a fun show to watch. So, you know, it's one of those things.
It's
but
one of the most enjoyable and least effective things.
like we
of the
were a
channel.
couple weeks off from missing, you know, and this is the kind of business owner talk that you won't hear too many YouTubers talk about. But you know, I'll be honest here in this little format. But yeah, when it comes to, you know, like Wednesday, we were like 2 weeks off from missing the mark. We would have lost all relevancy to be doing it. You know, you would just get like half the views, and like, yes, views are not everything, but when one episode takes many hours to just fully assemble, and then if you're going to be like hiring people to be on camera with you or help out behind the scenes with some of these videos, you know, you want to make sure that you're, you know, making back some of that via time and whatever investment you make in it as well. Like, it's the channel's at a different point now where I do have to be conscientious of those things, especially when I'm like, I also want to make sure that I have other, like, for down the road, I like to be ahead so that way I can, you know, whoever comes on the channel, or if I'm planning on hiring people, like, I want to make sure I can pay them and not ever worry about not being able to pay people. So yeah, it's all things that only I have to concern myself with, but that's why sometimes these answers are like, just can't do that right now. But maybe if we watch Sandman season 1 on our own time, and if we really enjoy it, and then perhaps we'll get around to Sandman season 2.
I saw the pilot at least and was quite intrigued.
Okay. I almost put it on the other day. Then I put on Love is Blind instead. I was like, Sandman seems like the kind of thing I'm going to have to really think about.
Focus
when I'm
on
watching
this.
it. Yeah.
Yeah.
I'm gonna have to, and it sounds like the kind of television I would absolutely love. So perhaps by the time season 2 comes around, might do the thing where, I mean, because like we did an experiment with Witcher, where it was like, okay, Witcher season 2 is coming out, so let's watch season 1. We'll put that on YouTube, and then, because I mean that might be the decision. Honestly, we're like, oh, Sandman season 2 is coming out. But then everyone hated, it seemed like, Witcher season 2. So it was kind of a weird thing where our Witcher season 1 did better, even though we did it years late. It did significantly better than Witcher season 2 because people were not that into season 2. And it was that
But they
odd
did
thing
want to
where-
catch up for season 2. By revisiting these reactions. Yeah.
It was really strange how, like, that's really weird how Witcher season 1 did better just because we were leading into season 2, and then season 2 just kind of like plummeted for us. Yeah. But you know, it's like sometimes you just can't determine that. You don't know if a show is going to be shit or not. You don't know if the audience is going to lose interest. A lot of times you just don't know. But then you're like committed to it anyway. But you know, we'll revisit it around the time when Sandman season 2 is coming out. I might hold off on watching it until then. But John, read Lorenzo Baxter, who loves to give lengthy comments.
Actually, maybe we could split. Here, we'll trade. We'll do it like an interview. I'll start off. So I guess I'll hit you with a dual one. So for Greg, get ready. Out of Avatar: The Last Airbender and The Legend of Korra, what are some of your standout characters? Some that stuck with you, where you related to them, or maybe even certain arcs you like better in one show over the other, like Aang's journey and character arc versus Korra's. What stands out to you?
Okay, yeah, we definitely have to divide this up. You're doing one of those things, Lorenzo.
You're doing it.
I'm gonna do like a monologue worth of questions.
I'm gonna ask a few questions.
All right. Well, we got to be fair, so we got to keep them short.
Yeah,
all right.
yeah,
We'll
yeah.
answer them all, but we got to keep them short. Standout characters for me in Legend of Korra. I would say no. I'll take Avatar: The Last Airbender because we're not done with Legend of Korra yet. Still got 3 episodes left. I would say that with Airbender, without spoiling things for John, because you know John has a lot of things that for years he's been making his way through.
Got this list.
And I imagine one day Avatar: The Last Airbender might be on that list. So
It is.
I just won't say it right now.
Thank you.
It'll be one of those things 5 years from now. He's like, yeah, I'm still making my way through.
I'm on season 2, you know.
Still making my way through Clone Wars. Still making my way through Last of Us.
Yeah, man. I'll finish Last of Us by 2028. It'll be great.
The standout characters, I would say, the one that stands out to me the most is the show's antagonist, Zuko, because the again, without spoiling anything, is that when Zuko was first introduced, I thought he was an incredibly annoying character. He was there's nothing appealing to me about him. I didn't find him threatening. I didn't find anything about him charming. I just thought he was like an annoying, whiny character. And then whenever I look back on that show, he's usually the first character that pops into my noggin of the one who had the most complexity and became the most interesting and perhaps my favorite character. And I've never had that where I'm like, I really hate this character and I could do without this character. But then it ended up being like, actually, you are my favorite character. And it was such a challenging character too, because it was the one that would toy with the audience the most. And by the end of the show, I was like, oh, he's actually my favorite one. I don't know if there's any, I don't really look back on the show or any of these. It's like, there's always like an angle or elements to any of these characters that I'm like, yeah, I can relate to this of not feeling good enough and then having to overcome obstacles. Kind of a reoccurring theme with both of those shows. But there's not one where I'm like, yeah, that's, I'm so much like that. Usually it's like the sarcastic dumbass who keeps being the butt of the jokes but can actually rise to an occasion. That's more the character that I can relate to, like in Sokka or Bolin in Legend of Korra. But that's it. I wouldn't. There's not a character there where I'm like, oh, that's so me.
Okay.
But yeah.
Okay.
The next question here. Then another question you may not get, which is fine. Have you not seen these classic animated Disney movies? You're watching a lot of them lately, so something tells you might have skipped out on them. Are there any you have seen?
And then the rest is recommendations, which I do appreciate.
Yeah, like he's recommending Once Upon a Time and stuff. I love these questions a lot. I like when people ask these questions because there's like so many movies, and then sometimes you pick certain ones where you're like, shit, man, I don't know if I believe you anymore. You must be lying.
Yeah.
You must be lying, right?
And it's funny because we've
not seen this.
We've seen other channels. I know we've had conversations in the past where it's like, this channel who mostly does that, how have they not just seen any movies?
No, I mean I get that because like we've had that about like who but I will first say Natalie Gold is amazing. I'm not just saying that. I totally get why she has such a wonderful audience and why her views are so big and the engagement so large, because she's great. Like she's genuinely really enjoyable. But even on our end, we have been like, has she not seen anything? Like, what do you mean she's reacting to Avatar? Like, what do you mean she's in all the Lord of the Rings movies? All the Harry Potter movies?
Yeah.
Like,
Every Marvel movie?
Massive franchises. And never have you seen these movies. So that, even for my end of her, I'll be like, you got to be kidding me. What? Nah, she's got to have seen one of these.
Did you have no movies growing up?
I'm like, I thought her experience was that I don't remember her background. I think she said it was something with editing. I don't remember exactly what it was. But I have had it, and I know I've met one person who's actually really good friends with her, and like even he says that she's like a truly wonderful person, and she has that energy. Like I totally get why people are so gravitated towards her. I think she lives in L.A. too. It'd be cool to meet her one day. She's. The reason why her videos are so successful, like she should be like way surpassed us in subscribers for sure, because her average view count is already like way better, and her videos themselves are great, and for someone who hasn't seen any movies, she has pretty good commentary. So yeah, but no, I mean, the Disney movies we grew up on, I would Fox and the Hound. I loved Pocahontas. I've watched a bunch. Little Mermaid, obviously. Lion King.
Beauty and the Beast. That
Beauty
swath
and the
of them.
Beast.
Snow White. I definitely
White,
got.
Sleeping Beauty.
I missed out on the like
Pinocchio.
mid 90s to like mid 2000s era, where it's like, I don't even know if they're all Disney, but there was a swath of animated movies like Hotel Dorado and Lilo and Stitch and like Anastasia. Like that was the era of movies I kind of missed.
Wasn't Road to El Dorado DreamWorks?
Probably, I think.
Yeah, there was a point. There was like a 10-year period where I started missing some of them.
Yeah.
I just wasn't as interested in them for some reason. And it was also because I was a big pothead, and I was constantly I was high all the time, like every hour of the day. And and some people are like, wouldn't they make animated movies better? Not for me. No, it made it really difficult for my brain to process what I was watching. Okay. So I just kind of avoided a bunch. So that's why you see me catching up on some of them. Because I just couldn't process. I couldn't pay attention. I was too much. It's like my brain was overstimulated, basically.
Yeah, and you're not actually processing what you're seeing.
Yeah. It's like I tried watching 2 Transformers movies that way, and I couldn't do it. My brain gets too lost in thought, and it trails off when I get caught on one thought that interests me.
Yes.
And then I'm like, I missed like 10 minutes.
Now there's just like infinite metal plates moving around on screen, and I'm thinking about the consciousness of reality. So it's not good.
Yeah, I can't go to a movie theater on weed either. I can't do that. I can never register for some. It's too big.
Sure. Yeah. It becomes especially if the movie is I would imagine very immersive. Then it's too much. I imagine you would kind of get whiplash for an experience like that.
As much as people think I'm high all the time, I'm like, I'm really not.
In fact, I am only high at very precisely calculated moments where I can afford to do that.
barely do. So it's just kind of funny that I still have that image.
It's good.
I guess when you do it long enough, it kind of just becomes a part of your personality. Yeah. Would you have a favorite Disney movie, John?
Do I have a favorite Disney movie? Ooh, it's probably
hand-drawn.
Which one?
Hand-drawn. Go hand-drawn.
Favorite Disney hand-drawn is probably it might be The Little Mermaid. We grew up on that, and it's ingrained into my mind. And even though I don't know, people often I think reach for Beauty and the Beast, which is great. Like that one, I don't know. There's something just about the world of the sea, and Ursula is great and freaky and all that stuff. I mean, I loved catching up with Emperor's New Groove. I feel like I can't claim that one because I only just saw it recently. But I was like sad I missed that because I was like, I would have loved this at the time. Yeah. It's probably like The Little Mermaid. I feel like there are certain ones in there that I need to watch again because people like them better. Like people love Hercules, and I'm like, I saw it. I remember being like, it's cool, And I know you didn't like it as much, but I love Princess and the Frog mainly for the vibes and the setting and the kind of music that it is.
Yeah, that was okay. I thought it was fine. People are surprised. I really like the lead character, and I like how different she is.
Sure.
And how she's there's, if anything, there's something weirdly more relatable about her than 99% of the characters that I see in these Disney movies.
Yeah.
Because she's doesn't come from money, and she's striving for a good career and trying to make a name for herself and be a business owner. And I think that's, especially to slap that onto a female character, I thought was really cool.
Yeah.
Without making it you're a woman. I don't know if that's actually in the movie. I mean, they deal with it about her being black, but they don't really do.
It's not like you
talk about. Yeah,
I don't remember it being like, you're a girl, you can't do this. You can't start your own kitchen.
Yeah.
We're talking just favorite Disney animated, right?
Yeah.
Okay.
We should probably move on.
Yeah, we should.
We're 30 minutes in here.
Just making sure. I would have had a much more precise answer if it was not only animated. But yes, David Gandy is next. David Gandy wants to know, what's your favorite version of A Christmas Carol? And how do you think A Muppet Christmas Carol stacks up? It's
a Muppet Christmas Carol for me. That's my favorite one.
Really? I need to see The Muppet Christmas Carol.
Babe, are you there? Oh, damn, what is the song? Shit, we're always playing one of the Kermit the Frog songs. I can hear the melody in my head. This is Christmas. This is Christmas. If you know the movie, you'll know it.
Oh, please.
Michael Caine is Scrooge, Ebenezer Scrooge in that movie.
Okay, yeah, okay. I think
Yeah.
I think I've heard this. I'm surprised. It hit me one day. I'm kind of shocked. I grew up with Muppets on TV, but I don't think I saw any of the Muppet movies. So like, yeah, Muppet Christmas Carol, I feel like is a gaping hole. Like it took me forever to see Scrooged, and yeah, I feel like Muppet Christmas Carol is like the gaping hole in my lexicon of Christmas carols. I really like the George. There's a one from like the '80s with George C. Scott that I think is probably my favorite one. Like there are a lot of good ones, you know. Like I like the recent one with Guy Pearce. I like the one with Patrick Stewart. The Alistair. I would go like George C. Scott, and then Alistair Sim, like the one from like the 1920s or maybe it was the 40s. It was a black and white one that really kind of gives you that, especially when they have the spirits and the ghosts, you know, and those older style effects. There's something very eerie and beautiful about that. And it took me a little while to appreciate Alistair Sim's performance as Scrooge, but over time, like I've grown to really love it. But the George C. Scott one just always has like the perfect blend of tones and flavors, and it's like creepy and spooky, but also it's just really tangible too because it is a bit more recent, but it's not too recent. Yeah. I didn't see all of the Robert Zemeckis one, but I don't think that will take the top spot.
I mean, that one's creepy.
Is it?
Yeah, it's like nightmarish. It's scary. I remember I saw it in the theaters, and I remember being like, "This is kind of scary. It's kind of boring."
It's a combination. I want to see what that feels like.
Between like boring and this is pretty terrifying. But I appreciate the visuals though because they at least go for the horror in that film. I've only seen it the one time. I don't remember specifics, but I remember the feeling it left me with. That's usually that's why I harp so much on emotions because a lot of times I forget specifics of most things I watch, and it's really just the gestating feeling that I'm left with by the end of the film.
Sure.
And that's what I remember. That's always the embodiment of my review. And so, yeah, I just remember being like, it's kind of boring, but it's also kind of scary. And Jim Carrey's in it, and he's not funny.
I'm going to check it out on that strength alone.
But I'll be honest, I'm not a big Christmas Carol fan, that story itself. There's so many of it, and I think it's like it is a perfect structure of a story. It is perfect because you immediately set it up with a guy. Because you could do it in any era. You could even do like a Christmas Carol in the future if you wanted to. Like you could do it in any period in time. Yeah. And I think as long as Christmas exists, but you could do it any period in time. and it's a perfect structure. And so I get why it's told, like why it's such a timeless tale and why it's told so much, because you have a perfect character arc set up for a guy who's like cynical and then grows to love and appreciate Christmas by overcoming the past and appreciating what he has today. It's a perfect structure. So I get why you can do it. But I've never, it's like I'll say Muppet Christmas Carol because my wife would want me to say that one. So that's why. But
good job.
In all honesty, I don't really enjoy. I've never seen one that I'm like, this one really stands out to me, and this one I really never been in love with any version I've seen to the point where. But I think it's a great. I think the structure itself is just so solid. You know that other things will ape it. You know, I haven't seen that Matthew McConaughey movie with Jennifer Gardner, but it sounds like it's
Ghost of Girlfriend's Past.
Yeah,
same
kind of thing.
Just for his love life specifically. Yeah. Next Christmas, watch the George C. Scott one and tell me what you think. There's that. I think that one takes it for me because it's just like beyond the timelessness of the story. I'm like the casting across the board is great, and each vignette with each spirit is. It might have even been a TV movie, so it's a little 80s, but there is some really beautiful imagery. And when it comes to like the way they realize the spirits and the way the photography accentuates them, there's some really cool stuff where, especially watching it back now, you're like, wow, this is really striking. But yeah, I mean, you know, it's also still a Christmas Carol.
Maybe.
You know.
I'll let you know. George C. Scott, Patton.
Yeah, man. Okay. And not Dr. Strangelove, but he's in it.
Yeah. Nabhan Khan.
Ooh.
Congrats on the wedding. Have you seen this movie, John? Meet Joe Black?
Yeah, I saw Meet Joe Black because it was the only Brad Pitt movie I could see at that age.
Oh, yeah, and you had an obsession with Brad Pitt.
I thought he was so cool because of the Fight Club poster that I clipped out of the Friday newspaper.
You got a haircut to look like him, didn't you?
I wanted to. I thought
you specifically got a haircut that you were trying to mirror.
I was trying.
Tyler Durden.
I was trying, but I was like sort of forced into a compromise, I think, at that point in time. I didn't get the haircut. There were a couple times in my youth where I wanted a haircut, and the time where I really got it was when I saw Speed, and I was like, I want that buzz cut. And then I got that buzz cut.
Your parents let you see Speed?
Yeah.
Did your dad do it? John's family really, they were heavy on sentence. Rightfully so. I'm acting like it's a bad thing. It's they're like, or I was the exact opposite.
Yeah.
Of John's family. Like I could watch. Like John wasn't even allowed to watch The Simpsons for a long time.
Sure.
You know, like sure. That's how like intense it could be. But and then what did your dad do? Like he would do like censored versions sometimes, right? So you could watch them.
Yeah.
I thought he did that for like Terminator 2. Like he would make like a censored version.
Yeah, we had one of those big old video VHS camcorders, and so yeah, he knew how to dub tapes, and so yeah, he would sit there with the movie, copy it over, and then yeah, like manually edit out any too inappropriate for a child content. And yeah,
so
Speed
funny.
was probably one of those for sure.
Speed has like some swear words, and there's some guy from Dennis Hopper at the end. It's pretty violent.
True. Yeah, I might, and I could have even seen it on TV or something. Like maybe I watched the whole thing, but on like TNT or something like that, where it's like slightly adjusted or whatever.
It was cans.
Yeah.
It was cans.
The movies are better that way. Because then you get to guess what it actually was, and for a while you think that's what it actually is. So,
and I think the line to the actual movie is "They were cans." I don't know. It's such a funny line to me. It was cans. I like Meet Joe Black. Remember,
it's just cans.
It's just. I think people hate that movie. I liked it. People thought it was too long. Sure, it's like 4 hours or something. It's obnoxious, but I liked it.
I remember liking it. I thought it was interesting.
I think it competed with. Was it that? I think Meet Joe Black was the movie that had the episode 1 trailer before it, so it forced people to watch Meet Joe Black's.
Sure.
So they could watch the episode 1 trailer. I believe that's what. I think it was that film. I'm not sure about that. It was either that or they were competing with each other. One of the two. I remember there was some movie specifically where, because no, I saw the Star Wars. I saw the episode 1 trailer in theaters, but I didn't see Meet Joe Black in theaters. He does have the funniest death when Joe Black dies. That is the funniest. Like it is unbelievably like it's over dramatic, the film, and it's melodramatic and
the thing
sappy. But I enjoyed it. I actually started eating peanut butter from spoons because of that movie.
Yeah, I probably did too. He's you mean when he gets bonked by the car? The silly
the cars, the
ping-pong
multiple cars?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Or he gets hit by one and then the other.
And like no one's stopping their car. Yeah.
Yeah.
Because Death is like, I need his body. Let's bang it up badly.
That is, I mean, looking back, it is a strange movie, and I think at the time I didn't. It's weird. At the time, I would have been younger, so it would have been more of a detriment to have it be 3 hours long. But it was only just now that I really clocked the idea that no, that's a long movie.
Yeah,
that is a very thick movie. I maybe don't like it enough for the 3 hour investment.
Oh, I have no idea. I have no desire to revisit it. But,
yeah.
But like 7-year-old Craig, like 30 years ago, Craig really enjoyed that movie.
Yeah, and there was something about the fact that it was like you still have that element of fantasy, and it's a little bit macabre. So you're like, ooh, this isn't your regular romance movie, and it's got Brad Pitt.
But it is ridiculous how he dies.
Yes,
it's really inconvenient.
It's a classic.
Like, instead of giving him a heart attack, Death is like, let's turn a couple of people in the streets into a murderer.
Yeah, let's traumatize a couple people
really
with some vehicular
this guy's
manslaughter.
body. It's like you need his body. Maybe you shouldn't damage, like break every bone in his body.
Yeah.
So I was like, it makes no sense. And then he's just supposed to like stand and walk up, and I'm like, I'm gonna go to Anthony Hopkins now. There's a big logical gap here in Death's orchestration of taking over this body.
It's prime for a reboot. We need a rebooted version with Bill Skarsgård as Joe Black.
A 90-minute version.
Yeah. Trim some of that fat out.
All right. Julie. John, you're up here.
Let's do this, Julie. Have you guys ever seen Lost? In my view, it still holds up as one of the all-time great television shows. Such a phenomenon back in the day. It gets an unfairly bad rap nowadays because people disliked and or misinterpreted the ending and subsequently wrote off the entire series because of it, which is a damn shame. If by chance you guys haven't seen it, wholeheartedly recommend it. If you haven't seen it, I'm curious. If you have seen it, I'm curious on your opinions on the series as a whole and the ending in particular. Greg, you've seen all of Lost. I've seen much of Lost, and then everyone just kind of told me after that. So.
No, I haven't seen all of Lost.
Really?
I fell off the show.
Me too. Okay, there you go. All right. And then I saw just like random episodes in between. I love the idea of Lost, and I never forget when it came out because that was a time where I feel like that was a time before you had a million outlets putting out TV, and most of us mainly had access to like the big network. Like big network was still like king. And so like I remember when Lost came out and it was like, damn, this is leveling up what network TV can be. And the mystery is crazy and it's so ominous and this huge ensemble cast. And you know, I like the J.J. Abrams mystery box. Like, man, I like sitting there every week going, what the fuck? You know, like, and just being more and more confused. But yeah, I mean, I fell off at a certain point. I got less engaged, and aspects of it maybe felt cumbersome. But it's one of those shows where I am still in the back of my mind curious to maybe complete it for myself someday and make my own judgment on the journey as a whole.
I think I just want to watch the first and last episode.
Do that and then make a video essay and see what happens.
I want to just redo. Because I had a weird watching order. I stumbled into it when someone else was watching it on season 3, and I really loved the vibe. I loved the mood a lot, and I didn't quite see anything like it on TV. Mm-hmm. And I always heard people talking about Lost, but I never saw any of it. And then I saw one episode, and I was like, "This is cool." I didn't even know what was happening, but I was hooked.
Yeah.
Which is like your entire experience with Lost anyway. But then I watched like all of season 3, and then I went back and watched like the first 2 episodes of season 1. And then I just picked up from where I left off on season 3 and stuck around for a couple of seasons. So I had this like weird watching order, which is already like odd to do with a show that's already difficult to keep track of.
Yeah.
And I think because I don't think streaming was streaming might have been around. I know Netflix came up, but streaming in the sense of how mainstream it was, because before when it was streaming, it was like odd choices were on streaming. You know, like when John and I got streaming the first time, we shared a Netflix account and we watched. Teeth. It's not called vagina teeth. It's
called
teeth. Yeah,
that's the asylum version is vagina teeth.
Yeah, we saw Teeth, and we didn't even watch Teeth. We just skipped through the scenes to see how gory does this get. And that was the kind of films that Netflix had in like Mortal Kombat and with the most obnoxiously slow loading time. So they didn't have a lot.
Yeah. It was more of a library than an actual stream of fresh new content.
Yeah. And I ended up falling off of Lost. Seemed like it was going on forever. And then I've heard of the ending, and so I don't want to be the guy who's like, yeah, the ending sounds like it's shit, because clearly Julie, you feel like people misunderstand the ending. And maybe I would feel differently, I'd imagine. But
I feel like
I think it just would be fun to watch the first episode and the last. I just think it would be really fun.
I think it would be too. And I think that also, like, even knowing what people have told me the ending is, which maybe it's not exactly that. If it's a good ending, it'll work anyway. Like, as much as I don't like having things spoiled for me, if the work is good and the writing and the direction and everything else is good, then it'll still work. Like, it'll still be quality story if it's a quality story, you know?
Yeah.
So.
All right, we're 45 minutes in, John. We got a time limit here.
Let's
keep it going.
All right. I think you're up again.
Okay, did you guys ever watch Batman v Superman directors? You know what channel you're talking to right now? That's 30-minute extra footage at the yes.
We both seen
leading into the Snyder Cut. We have talked extensively
we
about
ranked
the
it.
director's cut. I love that one.
I like that one.
John likes that one. I love that one. I do.
Yeah, positive vibes.
I remember having an epiphany of like watching it, and especially by the time I got to the Martha moment where I was like, "This makes sense to me now." I've literally been at. I remember being at a party, and I was like, "Let me explain to you guys why the Martha moment." Where it's just like, and it just let me go on this huge tangent of why it's effective, and so I feel like we would be retreading a bunch of water that we've already swam down before. So yeah, needless to say, yes, we have talked many times online about the
film is
Batman v Superman's director's cut.
Yeah, film is better when it's not been excised into oblivion.
Yeah, much better.
Amy, you've such a cool name spelling, and I don't want to mess it up. Amy, I'm just gonna go with Amy for right now. Sabine. What's your favorite genre, and would you ever consider a supernatural police case show a la Lucifer?
Lucifer is one show that we might, even though it's over, but it is one show that we have considered covering.
Yeah, I mean, it hangs on, and, it's got its dedicated sort of cult, but bigger than that following. I've always been curious. Like, people have always been like, hey, Lucifer's pretty good, And I like that kind of thing. I mean, anything supernatural or macabre. I mean, I think we both share a deep vested love for horror of all stripes and varieties. And I like mind-bendy things. But I don't know, like, favorite genre, yeah, it's probably either horror for that or slices of life for drama. And yeah, a supernatural police case show sounds great. I love blended genres.
Yeah, blended genres are the best. I think for TV, for TV it would be, which is really bizarre because, like, I love a good grounded sci-fi show that has a lot of mystery.
Yeah,
like that's generally what I'm like. I get really hooked into. But then it just depends. Like to me, it just has to fill that quota of exciting, and I don't know what's going to happen, and I can't wait to watch what happens next.
Yeah.
Like I'm a simpleton when it comes to that. So I don't know if I have a favorite genre because I could get into a damn good season of American Horror Story, but Better Call Saul was my favorite show of 2022.
Sure.
But then the year before that it was Watchmen. So yeah, I got kind of a wide palette here for movies. Really, it's character-driven action films or horror, I would say.
Yeah.
Pretty simple when it comes to that.
Broad spectrum of horrors.
I think horror is a lot more respected now.
Yeah. Well, and I think I feel like nowadays more than ever, people don't just lump all horror movies into one umbrella any longer because of like A24 bringing the scope of like, oh, it can also be cinema over schlock if you want it to be, in a very mainstream sort of way. And people like Blumhouse too, sort of legitimizing things like that. And I think Blumhouse, like a place like that helps because if, I think people see the bumper and then you're like, okay, it might be some like schlocky truth or dare thing, but it might be, Whiplash or Get Out or something like that, So
True. That's a good point.
And two, I think TV has helped a lot because I think with TV, because you can do, you can have your cake and eat it. You can do all your spooky vibes, but you can also tell a story over so much time. And I feel like that just, I don't know, for the mainstream idea of horror opens people up to like, oh yeah, like, it's not just boobs and blood.
I can't think of any horror like a horror show I really like. I've seen all of American Horror Story, but
Yeah.
I can't think of. I mean, obviously Supernatural,
Buffy. I mean, that's the thing is what's
Buffy's
a horror show that is
that's consistently like works to scare you.
Yeah.
Or is intense or something. Like Supernatural is probably the closest one.
I know there's an answer to this that's like something.
Penny Dreadful.
Penny Dreadful's a horror show.
Yeah. Penny Dreadful is a good one.
Yeah.
I don't know. I like American Horror. I do. I feel like American Horror Story gets a terrible rep. I really enjoy it.
But I mean, the cool thing too is that it's like you maybe don't like absolutely love the pantheon of American horror stories, but there are a couple of you can always point to a season and go, but that one's great or this one's great. Like, you can there are at least a couple defined seasons that are like, this is pretty great TV,
I always want to watch American. Like I look forward to it, even if I'm not liking the season.
Yeah. Well, yeah, because
except this not the most recent one, but the one before it. That one was a chore. That one I forced myself to watch. Or the one with the aliens. I really did. The double feature one. I didn't like that one.
yeah,
like the first one a lot. Yeah, they usually drop the ball at the end, but I think that show in particular is it's called American Horror Story. I know it gets a terrible rep, but I'm like, I don't know, man. Sometimes it's pretty fucking good.
a show I haven't seen, but you've seen is Hannibal. That's a horror show, right?
Oh yes, yeah. For sure. Oh no, yeah. That's a pretty good call.
I used to love True Blood back in the day, boy.
Oh my God, True Blood.
Or like, what's a good one? Is
I guess
Hill
I never
House.
looked at them as horror shows.
Well, because they're also like drama. Well, True Blood's a soap opera, and like something like Hill House is a drama, is like a gothic drama. But Hill House is pretty freaking scary, I thought.
Oh my God, what is the name of the recent Mike Flanagan show? I loved it.
Midnight Mass.
Midnight Mass. Yeah, that was my that's my favorite one. And I can't remember. I couldn't pull the title, but I know for sure that was my favorite one.
Still gotta go back and watch that. It's funny, you know what? Shouts out to Jason Dolan, because I was just listening to the year-end Weekly Planet podcast medley, and they brought up Black Summer as like one of their favorite zombie things they'd seen in a long time. As like an example, they were talking about like the end of The Walking Dead, and they were like, if you want to see some really intense shit where anything could happen, go watch Black Summer. So
I saw 20 minutes of it. I thought it was great.
Yeah. I want to finish Lovecraft Country.
Oh yes. I guess there's some actually really good horror. I just never, even Supernatural, I've never been like a horror show.
Yeah,
because I guess it is a horror show. Yeah, I guess it is.
I guess so. Its main MO isn't to be setting up jump scares and stuff like that. I guess is like you think of like it's not necessarily. It's more trying to keep like an ongoing mystery that is also spooky versus just trying to like unsettle and creep you out.
Yeah. All right, let's look at this. Dakota Jones. If you could assemble a top 3 directors list over the past 5 years, who would it be? Easily for me, it goes. Huh?
I laughed.
Robert Eggers, Panos Cosmatos, Matt Reeves. Okay. Yes. Those are really solid directors.
Yeah, that's a great. I stole at least one when I tried to come up with my own 3.
Why? Who do you have?
See, I'm trying to find my third spot. I mean, I'll join you with Panos Cosmatos just because I love the 2 movies that guy's made, which I feel like the choosing him is a little tough because they're 2 very striking movies that I love very much. Sure. But he's only made those 2 movies. Jordan Peele for sure. I mean, more than 5 years a bit, but like still completing that arc into like that could be one of your favorite current directors. He's done his 3 movies. I enjoyed each of them immensely, and I cannot wait to see what comes next. And and the other projects he involves himself in. I'm usually game for. I liked Wendell and Wild last year a lot. Before I get to a third one, who do you?
Wait, who did you steal?
I stole Panos Cosmatos.
You stole Panos?
I've been trying to. Yeah, I stole him. I mean, I feel like Robert Eggers is a great choice. I don't want to steal him because I haven't seen The Lighthouse. I love The Witch though, or The Northman. See, it's like I have only seen one of his movies, so I just know that everybody else regards the other 2 well.
I haven't seen Northman yet.
Yeah.
And with YouTube's newest rules, which they have implemented and are now, they've already made it harder to get away with stuff that we generally cover.
Yeah.
I think Northman's gonna be a watch it on my own time kind of film now.
Yeah.
This is looking impossible.
Sure.
But yeah, God, I feel like my answers are a little bit more. I mean, you made some good picks, and just to stand out a little bit,
Hey.
I guess to mirror yours, I'll steal Matt Reeves, just because.
Matt
I
Reeves
think
is great.
I think he knows how. I think he's really delivered a good sensibility of blockbuster with art house.
Sure. Yeah.
And even though I haven't loved his last couple films, I would still put Christopher Nolan up there. I would.
Yeah.
I would put my man Nolan up there.
You know who I might slide in is James Mangold, only because James Mangold's been around a while, but I feel like nowadays people actually know his name, and he's come up with he came up making good movies, but now he's making big movies that are also either prestige or quality or legacy or something.
Damn, that is a good pick.
I feel like you can always rely on James Mangold.
Well, he's got such good range.
Yeah, totally.
Whereas even the directors here that Dakota's listing, I know the type of mood I'm walking into.
Yeah.
Even though I haven't seen The Northman, I've heard it's his craziest movie.
Sure.
Whereas Witch and Lighthouse are a lot more deliberate and more what the fuck is going on?
Yeah, totally.
But then whereas Northman sounds like a crazy violent mess. And even Panos Cosmatos, I haven't seen Beyond the Black Rainbow, but watching the trailer for that and then watching Mandy, I'm like, I kind of got an idea.
Yeah.
And, and Matt Reeves, yeah. But there's something about a Nolan with event cinema that I think really nails it. Jordan Peele's a great pick. I'm trying to think of one who's just a director and not because Jordan Peele's you get the whole package, like a Tarantino, you get a whole package of Tarantino.
Totally.
It's his full on vision. We shouldn't discount his directing capabilities.
Denis
Villeneuve.
See, it's funny.
Yeah,
it's you get to that point where you're like, are they just great or are they really a fave? Yeah.
Denis did Sicario, didn't he?
Yeah, the first one. Yeah.
He's a pretty good director,
dude. Sicario, Arrival, Prisoners, Dune.
Yeah, and his films. He seems to be on a different path than Nolan, a similar path to Nolan, but not the same. Where we're starting off small, with always having a bit of a cerebral touch.
Sure.
With Prisoners or whatever, but then how Nolan had, Memento and Insomnia.
This isn't quite fair because I feel like Nolan does read, but he feels like Nolan if Nolan was more of a reader.
Yeah, no, because he hasn't lost sight of character.
Yeah.
Whereas Nolan hasn't quite lost it yet, but he can. I saw there's an extended preview before The Way of Water on IMAX for Oppenheimer.
Yeah.
Which seemed to have a lot of character in it, and that got me excited. As cool as the visuals look on IMAX, I was also excited. It looks like there's a real story here, which is refreshing. And it was Denis. He keeps going bigger, from Blade Runner to Dune, and he still tells a really great story, and he seems to not lose sight of that, which I really admire. I would say, I say Denis Villeneuve because even he knows how to bring something different. Because he's always got that slow mood about him. Yeah. But he does have a quite a interesting because Blade Runner and Dune feel very different, but they're both big sci-fi films.
Mm-hmm. They do. Yeah, that's a good point. And they feel like
I just gotta say, I feel like I've been avoiding it, but it keeps popping in. I like the personality of Tarantino can sound very smug. Not gonna lie, he when he's on so many interviews and podcasts,
very confident man.
he does sound very egotistical, very like so sure of himself to the point where it definitely bleeds into cockiness instead of confidence.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm like, part of me hopes this is my weird desire. Like, even though I know by the time it comes out, I'm not going to actually want this. There's this part of me that wants his 10th film to be really bad. Because that's his saving grace.
Yeah.
It's like he has made like pretty consistently great films.
Yeah,
And
totally.
no matter how challenging of a personality he might be sometimes, because sometimes I listen to interviews with him and I listen to so many interviews and I love it. I love listening to him.
Yeah.
And other times I'm like, you sound like the biggest, like you think your opinion is gospel, you know?
You're that guy in film school I do not want to overhear at a party.
Yeah. And for a guy who, and he's like that writer director who really wanted to be a performer.
Yeah,
You know, because I'm like, God damn, this guy just talks over everyone the whole time.
yeah,
He constantly interrupts. He doesn't, and it's strange to me. What's really strange to me about Tarantino, the personality, is he doesn't seem to listen in conversation. like he doesn't just sit there and listen to someone else. Like he just wants to get a word and wants to talk and he's excited to talk and spew out information. And yet when you watch his movies, he's got such a great ear for dialogue and every character is sounding distinct. So I always imagine that he would be different. Granted, I've never met him in person or seen. I mean, yeah, we did meet him that one time, but never sat him in
conversation.
Sat in like in a person like, oh, in real life he's actually like quite a good listener. But
no,
like,
you know what it is. You know what it is. He's not sitting around listening to people. But he does listen when there's a movie on.
Yes,
that's
where
that comes from.
He does have a good ear. Like, I wonder if the sound for the voices of his characters is more movie inspired.
Sure,
but it also sounds so him and so
Yeah.
unique. Like, it doesn't sound like characters from another movie, you know. Because they do sound like, when you watch them like Once Upon a Time in Hollywood, you're like, this is really impressive that he did do this movie after being the guy who did like Western revenge movies for like so consistently.
Yeah. And somebody who has their own unique voice of dialogue that all the characters share, and yet it doesn't feel like all the characters talk the same.
Yes.
Like, I think that's hard to do.
And that's what so it surprises me when I see him in interviews, and I'm like, you don't seem like you listen to people.
Yeah,
yeah. Like, you seem like you really are just like, Now I talk now.
Yeah, I'm waiting for my opportunity to get another few words in.
That's fair. But that could just be with the cameras rolling, you know.
Yeah, and I mean,
in real life, I think I'm a better listener than on camera, as point proven right now in this past 2 seconds.
Pumpkin pie. Pumpkin pie. Yeah. Well, because you think of Tarantino, and I think that's the thing is, like, of the past 5 years, and I think Tarantino, at first I was like, I don't know if I would include him because I feel like like the pinnacles are before, and yet even still, when I think of him now, I'm like, but yeah, Once Upon a Time in Hollywood, like, to see the way he got there, and while that might not be my absolute favorite of his movies, there's a lot of stuff I do think is great about it, and I do really like about it, that I do think is like marks of his growth in, as just a, as a filmmaker. And yeah, I mean, like, he's still got it, and I'm still hanging on to see what he's gonna do. So I feel like, yeah, you can very justifiably still claim him. The only thing that like asterisks Tarantino is just because it takes at least 5 years for any one of his movies to come out. But
it's such an event when it does.
It always,
in the film community, at least.
Yeah. Well, and his movies still do well enough outside of that too, though. I mean, he is still one of the few mainstream auteurs. He's probably the most recognizable mainstream auteur. That even if you don't, go to every, cinema movie, you might go to his still.
Hateful Eight came out before Inglourious, right? No, after
No, no, no.
Inglorious?
Yeah, it goes Inglorious, Django, Hateful Eight.
Okay. Because I was going to say, like, he had 3 movies in a row where the actors won Best Supporting Actor. But Hateful Eight, no one won for that.
Were there nominees
That's his only movie of his I don't like.
at all?
I have a hard time sitting through. I always admire it at first.
Yeah.
And then it becomes really hard for me to sit there.
Yeah, I
I
can see
get
why.
you're not supposed to like them, but I really don't like them.
But it's not in a way that I enjoy spending my time with.
Yeah, this is a loud movie.
It is, yeah. And have you ever tried to go back and do it as the Netflix chunks?
No, I have not done that.
Be curious to see that. I do like Hateful Eight. I very much flip flop because every time I'm hypothetically asked to rank Tarantino, it's always surprisingly hard. And then at times I debate on that movie because initially when ranking, I'm like, it probably falls toward the bottom. And then I'll come back and be like, but there's some shit about that movie, man. Like, I think that's one of his, weirdly, even though it's not one of his flashiest movies, it does feel like one of his bolder movies because it is like a tough sell of a movie, I feel like. And it is a harsh experience overall with the least amount of like cool shit, interludes or whatever. I feel like every one of his movies has some kind of badass quality somewhere in it. And the Hateful Eight does not have that.
I guess I just really don't like the way it makes me feel. Like it's good at what it does, but I don't like every time halfway through I'm like, I got a headache.
I want to take a hot shower after this.
I always really enjoy. At first I'm always like, yeah, this is neat. And then I'm like, this is rough. It's the same journey every time. Spent a long time on that. Spent on a Tarantino.
Might have been a better play, but that's why he got on the list. It's worth the time.
Totally derailed that. That was definitely my fault.
It's okay. It's okay.
I like how these specific questions for you are so kind, and then I got this one.
Oh no.
Which I already this is from 2 weeks ago.
Yeah.
I already answered this. I answered this in a Doctor Who video. I feel because I saw a couple of things like this.
Definitely.
Question for Greg: do you still enjoy watching Doctor Who? It just appears that you appear so tired and disappointed every time you watch that show. Well, yeah, I hate it. It's fuck that show. I'm dumb.
Well, every doctor is the worst doctor.
I was like, I remember being so moved at the end of last season with Clara.
Yeah.
And I was honest about the way my feelings were for this latest season, but I really loved the last couple that we watched.
Yeah.
And no, I mean, it was just it's like it was a really thick couple months, like prepping for a wedding, prepping to go out of town. Like for me to prep to go out of town for a week involves me getting ahead 2 months in advance. So it's like it's a really hard thing because then you got other things dropping, and then I got there's like extra responsibilities now, and then a lot of 15 and 16-hour days, and then Doctor Who was just like a show that I would watch to relax, and say disappointed every time I watch that show. That's the part I might give you tired. There was a consistent period where I was definitely tired, but I wouldn't say disappointed every time. That part I cannot agree with you on. Clearly, you were not watching.
Not comprehensively.
Because I'm like, I don't recall being disappointed like 3 times in a row. I'm pretty sure maybe it's happened twice in a row, but I don't recall 3 times in a row being like, man, I don't know about this.
Falling off the bandwagon.
Yeah, no, I'd be honest about that. But no, I've been making sure to be more present because I took the audience for granted on Doctor Who, I would say, in the sense of I was too relaxed when watching it. I was like, it's Doctor Who. Let me just sit back, relax, and enjoy it.
Let it wash over me.
And then I know that can often translate into, especially because we're known to be like expressing ourselves so much, that if I'm taking like such a relaxed approach, it looks like I'm bored out of my mind.
Sure.
When I'm like, no, that's not it.
Be more uptight for Doctor Who, please.
We're still talking for 20 minutes afterwards for a reason. I'm not. That's not it. I'm just relaxed right now. Yeah. So, yeah. I mean, that's the thing is, with doing this, you want to, when you're doing reactions, a lot of the time it is just what I always tell guests, and as another reminder, and when it comes on, it's like just whatever you're feeling. It's part of and when I say this, it sounds like I'm saying pretend. when this is not what I'm saying. It's an expression exercise of a lot of us internalize how we're feeling and don't let it show, and I think that's one of the therapeutic parts and cathartic parts of doing reactions is it is the chance to let out externally what, like, especially for me, what I normally feel too insecure to express in a private setting with people, So, and so that's something I just wasn't applying as mindfully of, like, oh yeah, you got to get in that zone where you lie, kind of like when you're doing a scene in acting where you're like, you can't force it. That's what they always say. Don't force it. Be in the moment. Let go. Whatever happens, happens. And that's sort of what I do when I'm doing reactions. Is like, I have to let go and just, if it feels like coming out, let it out. And so I wasn't. That was just it with Doctor Who. The show Dark. No, haven't seen Dark. Maybe we'll watch it one day. There we go.
A lot of people love Dark. It's held on. I remember when it came out, and since then people have been like, "You see Dark? Dark's pretty great. Go see Dark." So it'll happen sometime.
Yeah, there's no way we're gonna answer all these questions. We'll see how this first one goes.
Yeah.
All right, let's knock out one more. Let's knock out 2 more really quick.
All right.
Let's do that.
All right.
All right. Chase Gardner, take it away, John.
Chase Gardner, have you guys seen Elf? If you have, what's your favorite moment or line? If you haven't, highly recommend it. It's my favorite Christmas movie, and the movie Elf turns 20 years old next year. What's your favorite Christmas movie?
I like Elf a lot. That movie's hilarious.
Elf is terrific, and Elf is the most, unless you can name another one, Elf to me is the most recent true addition to the Christmas movie canon, where I'm like, that's timeless. I will pull that out every year.
I can't wait for Will Ferrell's career to really take a tumble to where he has to do an inevitable sequel.
Oh, and it'll
Buddy's
have
back.
But he's back, and this time he's in Los Angeles or someplace else, or London. That'll be the thing. Every time he's got to be a fish out of water in a new town.
Yeah, I don't have a particular favorite line from that movie, but I do really like that movie a lot. It's really fun, and it's a hard line to straddle, especially with the romance with Zooey Deschanel and him, because it could usually not translate well, but they manage to translate well because Zooey Deschanel's really, that's Zooey Deschanel, right?
Yeah.
If I remember that correctly. Yeah, she's a really
just in
good,
her rare blonde appearance. Yeah.
Yes, that's what was throwing me off. She has a rare, quirky ability, that dry quirkiness about her,
Yeah.
that can allow her to connect with a character that could be somewhat perceived as creepy.
Sure.
So, yeah.
And actually, in thinking about this question, 2 moments. I really like the montage where he's first learning New York City. I think that's a really just fun interlude, and kind of.
A lot of that was improvised.
Oh, really? See, I would believe that, because it has this sort of very childlike, lively quality, and it also, I imagine, to me, it sort of translates like, New York does really look magical at this time of year. But the moment that kept coming back to me is like one of the more hard to sell moments, which is when he hears her singing in the shower and they sort of sing together for like a hot second, because that could easily. What were you gonna say?
No, that's the scene I was thinking of what I was thinking about Zooey Deschanel and being in that movie.
Yeah, exactly. And like that's a scene that could easily be so creepy, and I think. And it could be. I'm sure some people still think it is, but I feel like that scene especially manages to create something kind of tender and lovely and completely sort of innocent out of what appears to be something very creepy. And there's just like something about the vulnerability of that moment that I thought that always stayed with me. So that moment comes to mind for some reason.
Well, I think it's also the after scene, because Zooey Deschanel is not charmed by it and does find it creepy, but when confronting him realizes there was not a single creepy intent about him.
Yeah.
Which helps save it. And when I remember, cause I knew Ed Asner pretty well. He was a family friend who played Santa in that movie, and I remember like hanging out with him in his office, and he was showing us like Polaroids, not Polaroids. What do they call when you used to take photos and actually print them out? Is there a specific word for that? you like go to Costco and print them out, and
Oh, you just get your film developed, yeah.
film developed. Yes,
Yeah.
God damn it.
Yeah. You get your film developed.
Yeah. He was showing me photos of on set, and he
cool.
was saying like it was before any like clips or anything came out, and he was saying like Will Ferrell is truly hilarious in person,
Aww.
yeah. My favorite Christmas movie is Jingle All the Way. Hot take. I know people don't like it. I love it. It's my favorite one. It's the only one I could watch every year for some reason. I love it. It's my favorite one.
I will absolutely back you up on the greatness of Jingle All the Way. I mean, there's so many Christmas movies I could name and bore you all with, half of which are accepted classics. It's not Christmas to me unless I've watched A Charlie Brown Christmas or like how the Grinch Stole Christmas cartoon. Like those are the two where I'm like, it's Christmas time now. There are lots of other great ones. We've talked about some of them. Like Wonderful Life or White Christmas or whatever. But I will shout out though my favorite post-Elf Christmas movie that I think is really underrated and is really beautiful and affecting and Christmassy and all the stuff that you want is Arthur Christmas. That it's a CG animated movie, but I think it's.
All right, I know what you're talking about.
Yeah, I think it's an Aardman movie. It's by one of the more indie studios. But yeah, like that movie surprised me because I saw the trailer and I was like, oh goodness. And then I saw the movie and I was like, this is so wonderful. And also I'm crying and it's great. And if you haven't seen it, check it out. In fact, Greg, next Christmas, react to it and you'll get a great cry laughing thumbnail.
No more cry thumbnails. I've used them all up.
Yeah. This is the year of laughter only. That's what you got to do now. Is you got to get the laughter tears. Those are the last frontier.
Before it was, I gotta have one thumbnail a week where I look shocked, one where I'm laughing, one where I'm scared, one where I'm grossed out.
The quota. One where I'm covering my face.
If I didn't change up my shirts every video, I could just take a few poses and just not even have to pull from the actual.
You could just do the Campia and have everything be this.
I don't think people realize how much time is spent just like, especially on like the movies and shows of, I leave a marker there. Maybe that's a thumb. Maybe that's a thumb. Maybe that.
Yeah.
Like, there's a lot of faces here too. So
There's
just
an
like
hour and
sorting
20
that out.
minutes worth of footage.
It's gonna be time consuming, especially with the crying ones. Or before it was weird when you're like, gotta find the right crying faces. It's so weird. Now I'm like, which one of these crying faces really communicates I'm crying?
Which one at a glance in a very small shrunk down box says that guy is
At the same
bawling.
time, does it look like I'm posing?
What's the most
I don't want it to
authentic?
look like I'm posing.
It's got to be a candid cry.
It's gonna
candid
be-
cry.
Yeah.
It's
A lot of times when people cheat when they're not really crying is when they do this.
yeah.
You watch the video. I'm like,
Video's almost over. I gotta pretend.
Where's that fucking tear, you lying?
Yeah. Yeah, and then
Son of
certain
a bitch,
movies,
I clicked on your video.
certain things you're supposed to cry, and
Block.
if you don't get it, that's the last resort. Is the
Believe me, I've had that too. There's so much pressure on me.
yeah.
I'm like, what can I say?
Squeeze those tears out.
I'm more emotionally balanced than you.
Yeah, this has been a psychology exam, and I passed.
All right, last question here. JD, Jason Dolan, got a
Dolan.
shout out earlier. What franchises are you most excited about going forward between Avatar, the McDonald's commercials, the James Gunn DCU, Game of Thrones, or Star Wars?
Let's
my God.
rank them.
James Gunn DCU.
Yes, agreed.
We're talking about now, January 2023. Which one am I most excited about?
Yes.
James Gunn's DCU, because we don't know what the fuck that's going to be like. And it sounds like they really want to shake things up, and they mean it this time.
And James
it
Gunn's
sounds-
good at what he does.
True. And I'm wondering, though, like, how much will his voice be on these movies?
Sure.
So I'm just really curious.
Yeah.
Helming a few movies is different than producing a cinematic universe. And is he going to burn out?
Yeah.
Like this is like Ford was like, yeah, man, I got like a couple movies I'm working on now. It's like I'm working on like 40 movies right now.
I'm working on a
At
decade's worth
once.
of movies.
And also, I'm gonna be writing and directing some of them.
Yeah.
This is a tall order. I'm looking forward to it because there's a lot of drama around it and a lot of unknown. So I would say James Gunn's DCU.
Yeah.
I'm weirdly excited about Avatar
Yeah, we're still together. It's good.
because it sounds like it's kind of going in. You know, it's funny. I know you haven't seen The Last Airbender, the show, John, but how it works is there's 4 nations.
Okay.
There's Earthbenders. Like when this says bending, it means like you move, like they use like rocks and shit. They can move rocks and manipulate them. It's really cool.
Okay.
Like the ground. And then you have waterbenders, pretty easy to understand, firebenders, and airbenders. And Olivia doesn't follow, my wife Olivia doesn't follow any news about Avatar. give two shits about it. But after Avatar, The Way of Water ended, she's like, "What are they gonna do next? Fire people? Just rip off Last Airbender?" And I'm like, "Actually,
probably. We're going to the desert."
I'm pretty sure that's what James Cameron said he's doing.
Yes.
He's gonna do ash people or something.
Yes, and then the air people.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So, yeah, it was just funny she made a crack like that. I'm like, that's exactly what he said he's doing.
Seems like
Or the fire people.
Sure.
Yeah, and it is called Avatar. So I would say Avatar. And then I would say, I mean, there's only one show out of Game of Thrones I'm really excited for. So I would say the MCU.
The MCU. We're still together. We're still doing it. We're still doing it.
And I think this is where we might maybe differ because because of Rebels and Clone Wars, I have a really big interest in Ahsoka series.
Sure.
And of course Mandalorian season 3. So I would put Star Wars above Game of Thrones. Although it's like, if you're gonna ask me like just House of the Dragon, I would probably rank that higher than all of these. But I think like I have no interest in like this John. I said the same thing about House of the Dragon. For all I know, the Jon Snow show might be the best fucking thing in the world, but I don't really have an interest in watching it. I hear reports about it. I'm like, I don't care. There's like one thing of how Game of Thrones that I'm looking forward to, so that's why it's at the bottom of the list. Whereas Star Wars has 2 things I'm really looking forward to.
Dude, we're still together.
Oh, are we? Okay.
With less frame of reference, actually, you took the words right out of my mouth. It's like, I love House of the Dragon's great. In my eyes, in my haven't read the book eyes, I know some people don't love it. I think House of the Dragon's great. But yeah, Jon Snow show still is not like appealing to me. And yeah, it's the slightest. Whereas even though Star Wars, you have a greater base of anticipation from all the extra media you've seen. But also, Star Wars is in a sort of interesting disarray where I thought about putting it at the bottom, but then I was like, well, it's also an interesting time for opportunity because, I mean, yeah, like I've been stung by Star Wars projects I was optimistic for various reasons. So I don't know exactly where to put all of my optimisms. But, knowing that the door is open for something like an Andor and knowing that there's going to be like Acolyte, which is from the Sith perspective, and even Ahsoka, like, even not having the wealth of attachment brought by having seen the entirety of the Clone Wars and Rebels and stuff like that. Like, I love Rosario Dawson, and I've loved her appearances thus far. And yeah, Mandalorian I think is great, and I look forward to Mandalorian. I look forward to Andor. And so the more I thought about this, the more I was like, I'm still excited for some Star Wars, even if it's not like my number one jam, even if it would appear as though I would rank it at the lowest. I'm like, it seems like an exciting time. And even though I'm primed for maybe certain things will still disappoint me down the line, it also seems like maybe some things will be cool surprises. Andor did it, and Mandalorian is still good. So why can't other things do it,
Yeah, it's like I'm going to tune in for every MCU thing. And it's weird. It's like, I guess I'm so used to the MCU by this point.
Yeah, it's always there.
It might have overshot their load a little bit to the point where I'm like, I'm so used to them now that I'm like, well, yeah. I mean, the kind of the general vibe is excitement, right?
Yeah, so you need something more exciting than excitement.
Kind of like a general neutral excitement of.
Yeah.
yeah. I'm sure it'll be fine. I'm sure it'll be interesting. And then some will be better than others. But as Ahsoka especially, because from everything I've heard about it, I'm like, it sounds like you really need to have seen Rebels to watch to really get, because like Mandalorian was throwing in shit where you're like, if you haven't seen Rebels, you don't know what the fuck she's referencing.
Yeah.
When she's like fighting Asian lady in
Fennec?
No. The Ahsoka episode in season 2.
Oh, yeah. She's fighting the lady in the courtyard. Yeah.
Yeah, and she's like, "Where's Thrawn?" I'm like, if you haven't seen Rebels, you don't know what the fuck she's talking about.
Sure.
You know why that line is so big, such a big deal, and I'm like, and knowing that they're going to be bringing in characters like very important ones, where we're going to tie up some ends here that are going to get the live action debut for Rebels. Like, I wonder how this show will click with people. Are they going to be able to successfully translate it over where you don't need to have seen Rebels?
Can they circumvent? I feel like they have a more complex version of what daunts people about Marvel stuff. Yeah, which is like there's a wealth of other material you need to be familiar with to truly get this. But I also, there are times where I wonder how big of a barrier those things are, because like in the earlier Star Wars, you're used to at least hearing certain events alluded to that would go on to be fleshed out, but that at the time are just, sort of parts of the surrounding history. So I don't know. Like, if it's something like that, if it's like, where's Thrawn? This is a specific name. So yeah, you're kind of like, who? If you don't know. But I don't know. I would be very curious, because I think they will have to confront and deal with that as an issue. And I think that the position Star Wars is currently in, it seems like they're still trapped in a position where they have to play to both. They have to play.
They have to. I mean, they just have to, because it's all canon for them. Because I didn't watch Clone Wars till after the first season of Mandalorian, and that was because I hated not knowing what the Darksaber was, and that really bothered me. Like really, really rubbed me the wrong way. And so I was like, I don't like that I don't know this, and I feel like I should.
Sure.
And the Darksaber is such a, like, it's not like in every fucking episode of Clone Wars or some shit, but there's so much revolving Mandalorians and so much story arcs that revolve, like several of them that really heavily revolve around this Darksaber.
Yeah.
Especially in Rebels, and yes, in Clone Wars too, and also the claiming Mandalore being such an integral part of Clone Wars, especially, and Rebels. So, but then you watch the show, and then they kind of give you like a couple of lines to explain who Bo-Katan is, and then they do a decent job of like the Darksaber, like basically you need this to rule Mandalore. All right, you win it in combat, you rule Mandalore. Plain and simple, boom, bada bing. And I'm like, well, yeah, that's like the most efficient way to describe what it is.
The log line.
Yeah, but this true weight of it is like, oh no, you really gotta watch like this fucking show. you gotta watch like seasons of shit. And so yeah, no, but that's like I'm hearing that they're gonna bring like Ezra Bridger in there, and what the I almost said Ezra Miller, and
no, you said Ezra Bridger, and I thought of Ezra Miller,
yeah.
And then I had to reorient myself.
Oh my god, forgetting the name of her, the green Twi'lek in Rebels, something with H. I think she's coming into the show, so it's like they're bringing like the cast of Rebels in here, which, and the reason I'm saying that is because the way Rebels ends, it has a specific cliffhanger involving and Sabine Wren, the lead of Rebels. Like the way it ends is so specifically setting up a very specific story that involves characters from Rebels and Ahsoka Tano, and that's where the General Thrawn line comes in. So it's like, okay, so we are going to continue that storyline, And so I'm like, how are you gonna? I don't know. It just seems like there could be a lot of when you have like seasons of television. Like you just have to explain this away in a couple of sentences, so that way people can. That might do a good enough job. I'm not sure, but
No,
we'll
but
see.
it seems like a really daunting task and something that they do have to. Seems like they're in a unique position to have to really do right by the people who are diehard and who do have the full lexicon, but also, draw in the people who aren't concerned with that. And I don't envy anybody in that position.
Well, yeah, it's the kind of thing where if Rebels was live action, more people would watch it. Like they might go, okay, I'll catch up on Rebels because it's live action.
Yeah.
But there is still and I know that's not the same for everyone. There is still a type of, even for someone like Coy, who is the biggest comic reader we know,
Yeah.
and absorbs comics like nobody's business. He has a hard time mentally and emotionally connecting with animated medium for some reason, in television and movies. Like it is a weird barrier, and I've heard this for other people too. Where it's just gonna be hard. There's something about registering yourself with it, which can be more difficult for some reason. And that's the odd part is you're asking people to not just watch another show, but also absorb another medium, which is a bigger task for a lot of people, which is, I think, a big reason why a lot of people haven't seen that shit because of the fact that it's animated. So I just wonder how many people would actually take the time to watch this shit.
Well, and I think there's a weirdly I think there's an odds that some of the animated Star Wars shows, and I think they're beginning to bridge this gap, but it does feel like there is you kind of have to. These shows have helped you realize, or helped, like if you were like me, realize like, okay, these animated shows do have like canonical, important, dramatic events, and from the outside they appear like kids shows. And that was, I know, a barrier I had to get through at first because, it was like, okay, this animation style seems like it's very much geared towards kids, and like this is going to be fun and bouncy, and like even the announcer at the front of every episode sounds like a cereal commercial. But then you get into the actual story that's happening, and you're like, oh no, like this is they're actually, doing something in the spirit of what came before it. And George Lucas has said 1,000 times that, Star Wars is for everyone of all ages. But yeah, I think that also creates a barrier for certain viewers who want Star Wars to be a more, gritty and, at least, I don't know. There's some, not that Star Wars is like gritty, but there's something about that action and that world in live action that comes across a little, more mature or more advanced than it does maybe in the animated medium as it exists now.
True. And, Clone Wars, honestly, there's a very specific arc involving the main character from Rebels and training to be able to try to take on the Darksaber. And it's really gripping. There are times it becomes very, very mature. Mm-hmm. And Maul's great, and Maul's fucking phenomenal in Clone Wars as well. There's a reason why the Maul love has like sprung up. But
it's
all
not
right,
all from episode 1.
Yeah.
Yes.
But yeah,
yes.
we should definitely because we got to move on to shooting some other stuff. But if there's a time to continue it, we will continue because we do have some more questions to go through.
We got another hour's worth of questions, probably.
We do
pretty easily.
We do.
Yeah.
We do. But thank you guys for being here.
Thank you.
Thank you to our patrons as well, our super sexy rejects, for supporting us and for submitting this and allowing us, John and I, to talk to each other for the first time in a long time.
Yeah, bat some ideas back and forth. This is a cool format. This is very chill.
Yeah.
Like
with a 5-minute watch time.
Yes, with a really spread out, but yeah, it's like everyone's just watching their question, and that's
nobody listened. Everyone checked out really fast.
Yeah, it's okay, guys. We love you, even if you listen for 10 seconds. We love you. It's better than no seconds.
We answered a decent amount.
Yeah.
1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18, 19, 20, 21, 22, 23. 23 questions we did not get to.
Okay. How many did we get to? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15. 15's not bad. Got like 15 in. Yeah. Not
All
bad
right.
at all.
For the next request questions, we'll just go yes or no.
Yeah.
No.
Yes.
Not interested.
Definitely. No.
Nope. Definitely not happening. Sorry to blame. Sorry to tell you. All right. All right, guys. Well, thanks for being here. I'm going to log out now. Much love.
Peace.